There are stories on the internet that are born out of whispers, late-night posts, and blurry images that refuse to leave your mind. Stories that grow darker the more they are told, passed from screen to screen like a modern campfire tale. Among them, one name stands above all the rest. A figure whose pale face and twisted smile have haunted the nightmares of millions. This is the legend of Jeff the Killer. A story so disturbing it has crossed borders, languages, and generations, evolving into one of the most infamous creations of internet horror. But behind the picture, behind the phrase, "go to sleep," lies a tale that is far more unsettling than you might imagine. Tonight, we'll descend into the shadows, uncovering the origins, the story, and the chilling legacy of a killer that may only exist in fiction, or perhaps in the corners of the dark where fiction and reality blur. Like many monsters of the digital age, Jeff the Killer was not born from books or movies, but from the chaotic depths of the early internet. His stories surfaced in the late 2000s, during the golden era of creepypasta, short horror tales shared on forums and image boards, designed to shock, disturb, and spread like wildfire. At first, Jeff was little more than a blurry image and a few lines of text. The picture, eerily simple, showed a pale, ghostly face with dark, hollow eyes and an unnatural smile carved into its skin. There was something about it that seemed wrong, as if the photo itself was cursed. Users on websites like 4chan, Newgrounds, and later creepypasta.com began attaching stories to the image, giving the faceless figure a name: Jeff. No one knows the true author of the original story. Some claim it was posted anonymously in 2008. Others say the character was stitched together from multiple versions floating around different forums. What we do know is that the story resonated. Within months, Jeff the Killer had spread across YouTube, Reddit, and countless blogs, turning into one of the most recognizable creepypasta figures, alongside Slender Man and Smile Dog. The myth only grew with time. Each retelling added more details, more violence, more tragedy. But it all began with that one unsettling image and a handful of words shared late at night by strangers who never imagined their creation would become one of the most enduring horror icons of the internet age.
The story of Jeff the Killer begins like many tragedies, with a boy who never quite fit in. Jeff was described as an ordinary teenager moving with his family to a new neighborhood, hoping for a fresh start. But instead of finding friends, he found enemies. The local bullies targeted him and his brother, mocking them, cornering them, pushing them to the breaking point. One day, the torment escalated into violence. Jeff was ambushed, beaten, humiliated in front of others. But something inside him snapped. Accounts say that during the fight, Jeff fought back with a brutality that shocked everyone. He was no longer just a victim, he was dangerous. That was the moment when the darkness began to take root. Not long after, Jeff became the victim of a far crueler twist of fate. In some versions of the tale, acid was thrown onto his face during another encounter with the bullies. The burning disfigured his skin, leaving it pale, ghost-like. His eyelids were scorched, forcing his eyes to remain open, wide and unblinking. His lips were torn into a permanent, grotesque smile. What had once been a boy's face was now a mask of horror. The pain drove him deeper into madness. He stopped sleeping. He stopped speaking to his parents. And then, one night, He stood before a bathroom mirror, clutching a knife. According to the story, he carved into his own flesh, deepening the smile, widening the wounds, whispering that he wanted to look perfect. When his mother found him, horrified, Jeff simply turned and said, "Mom, I can't sleep." That night, the legend claims, Jeff gave in completely to the darkness. He killed his parents, he killed his brother, and he vanished into the night. But before each murder, witnesses say he would utter the words that have since become infamous: "Go to sleep." It is a phrase that still chills readers to the bone because it feels both intimate and cruel. It is not just a command, it is a lullaby twisted into a death sentence. This is the heart of the creepypasta, the story that spread across the internet like wildfire. A boy turned monster, transformed by cruelty and violence until he became something that could no longer be contained by the ordinary world.
If there is one thing that made Jeff the Killer unforgettable, it wasn't just the story, it was the image. A single picture that spread faster than any words could. The photograph shows a pale face with smooth, almost plastic-like skin. Two dark, soulless eyes stared directly at you, wide open, unblinking. And then there is the smile, unnaturally stretched, too large for a human face, frozen in a grin that feels more like a threat than an expression. There are no shadows, no depth, just that face floating in darkness, staring at you. No one knows for sure where the image came from. Some say it was edited from a photo of a young girl. Others believe it was created from scratch using crude digital tools of the early internet. Over the years, countless theories have circulated. Was it a morphed photograph, a piece of lost fan art, or something more sinister? The mystery of its origin only added fuel to the legend. What is undeniable is its impact. For many, it wasn't the story that scared them first, it was the image itself. People reported feeling uneasy after looking at it, as if it lingered in their mind long after they turned off the screen. Some even claim they saw it again in their dreams, or worse, in the shadows of their own rooms. It became known as a cursed image, one of those strange artifacts of the internet that feels more like an omen than a file. And just like a virus, once you had seen it, you could never really erase it from your memory.
As the years passed, Jeff the Killer escaped the confines of a single story and transformed into a cultural phenomenon. What began as a disturbing creepypasta on obscure forums quickly spread into mainstream horror communities. Fan art began to appear, each version of Jeff more twisted and imaginative than the last, sometimes portrayed as a shadowy killer lurking in the night, other times as a tragic figure, a victim of cruelty, turned into a monster. YouTube became one of the main engines behind Jeff's rise. Early horror channels uploaded narrations of the creepypasta, sometimes accompanied by dramatic readings and unsettling sound effects. Animators created short films, bringing Jeff's smile to life with chilling realism. Gamers began to include him in mods, turning him into a playable enemy in survival horror titles or Minecraft scenarios. This expansion wasn't just entertainment, it was evolution. Every new interpretation added layers to the myth. Some storytellers gave Jeff supernatural powers, claiming he could appear in your room if you saw his picture too many times. Others placed him in crossover battles against other icons like Slender Man or Laughing Jack. Each retelling ensured that Jeff remained alive in the minds of fans, constantly reinvented, never forgotten. Soon, Jeff stood alongside legends like Slender Man, Ben Drowned, and Smile Dog as part of what many now call the golden age of creepypasta. Together, these figures formed a pantheon of digital monsters, the first truly modern folklore born from the internet. But Jeff was different. Slender Man was a faceless shadow, an otherworldly entity. Jeff, on the other hand, was human, or at least he used to be. That thin line between boy and monster made him more frightening. He was not a distant nightmare. He was the reflection of something that could happen to anyone. A child pushed too far, consumed by violence, reborn as a killer. And so, the legend only grew stronger. With every fan drawing, every YouTube video, every whispered retelling in the middle of the night, Jeff the Killer became less of a story and more of a cultural ghost, haunting the digital age.
As the legend spread, so did the so-called sightings. Across forums, YouTube, and social media, people began to claim that Jeff the Killer was more than just a story. They spoke of glimpses in the dark, strange figures watching from windows, and distorted faces caught on grainy security cameras. Videos began to circulate, shaky recordings of pale silhouettes lurking at the edge of the frame. A child's bedroom captured by a webcam, where in one frame everything looked normal, and in the next, a white face seemed to hover in the shadows. Some were quickly debunked as hoaxes, clever edits meant to scare, but others were never explained. In one infamous case, a teenager claimed he woke up to find a figure standing at the foot of his bed. The boy described a pale face, eyes wide open, smiling with an impossible grin. He swore the figure whispered, "Go to sleep," before vanishing into the dark. Skeptics dismissed it as sleep paralysis. Believers called it proof. The fascination grew because, like all good urban legends, these stories blurred the line between fiction and reality. Even those who laughed at the idea of Jeff the Killer sometimes admitted they felt uneasy when staring at his image too long, as if daring him to step out of the shadows. Whether hoaxes, hallucinations, or just the power of suggestion, the supposed encounters became part of Jeff's mythology. They kept the story alive, turning him from a simple internet character into something people claimed to experience in their own homes, in the silence of the night when they were most vulnerable.
Why does Jeff the Killer still terrify us, even after all these years? The answer lies not only in the story, but in something deeper, something that touches our most primitive fears. At the heart of Jeff's image is the uncanny valley, a face that is human, yet not human. The wide, lifeless eyes, the smile stretched too far. It triggers something instinctive in us, a warning that says, "This is wrong, this should not exist." It's the same fear we feel when looking at distorted dolls, clowns, or masks. Our brain recognizes the human features, but twisted just enough to unsettle us. Then there is the story itself. Unlike supernatural monsters, Jeff was once human. He represents the fragility of sanity, the idea that anyone, any child, any neighbor, any stranger, could snap under the weight of cruelty and become something unrecognizable. That fear feels closer, more personal. Jeff is not an ancient demon or a faceless ghost. He is a reflection of what we might become if pushed too far. On a cultural level, Jeff the Killer embodies the power of internet folklore. Before, monsters were born from myths and legends passed down over centuries. But Jeff was born in a decade, spread instantly across the globe through screens and keyboards. He is proof that in the digital age, horror evolves faster, spreads quicker, and lodges itself into the collective imagination with terrifying efficiency. Perhaps that is why Jeff remains so unsettling. He is not just a story we read. He is a story we participated in, shared, spread, and kept alive. A ghost not of the past, but of the internet itself.
Jeff the Killer may have been born as a simple creepypasta, just another piece of online horror meant to scare for a moment and be forgotten. But like the best legends, he refused to fade. His face continues to circulate, his story continues to be retold, and his name still carries a weight that unsettles anyone who hears it late at night. Maybe he is only fiction. Maybe he is nothing more than pixels on a screen, a digital ghost born from our fears. But stories have power, and sometimes the more we share them, the more real they become. So the next time you see that pale, smiling face staring back at you from the darkness, ask yourself, is it just an image? Or is it a reminder that somewhere, in the silence of the night, a voice may whisper in your ear, "Go to sleep."